Alex "Phantom" Reyes had spent years chasing the thrill of the extreme. From skydiving off cliffs to diving into the darkest ocean depths, danger was his fuel. But this time was different. Armed with a camera and thousands of live viewers, he prepared to descend into the world's tightest cave passage, a narrow, twisting nightmare of rock and shadow. As the walls closed in, the feed suddenly flickered. Then, silence. The silence of dawn shattered as Alex "Phantom" Reyes' rappel. Gear clattered against limestone, the extreme sports champion's hands moving with surgical precision while assembling his custom rig. Morning light barely penetrated the dense Mexican jungle surrounding the cave entrance locals called La Garganta del Diablo, or the Devil's Throat. Alex's 6-foot frame cast a long shadow across equipment, meticulously arranged on a tarp. Each piece specialized, each with purpose. Redundancy saves lives underground, Alex explained to his livestream audience, already numbering 20,000 before breakfast. His voice carried the calm confidence that had become his trademark. Across 3 world records and 17 first descents, the camera mounted on a carbon fiber tripod captured his methodical preparations, transmitting them to viewers who'd never experienced anything more extreme than their morning commute. 500 feet below, the infamous Needle's Eye passage weighted to 8.7 inches at its narrowest point. No human had successfully navigated it solo, much less while live streaming. 3 previous attempts by team expeditions had ended in emergency evacuations. "System check," Alex announced, his tone shifting to the professional cadence he'd developed during 8 years of pushing human limits for digital audiences. The former Olympic climber had transformed himself into an extreme sports celebrity, his social feeds documenting increasingly dangerous feats to maintain his 3 million followers. Technical director Mia Chun monitored transmission equipment from a portable station 20 yards back. "Primary relay station showing green," she confirmed, eyes never leaving the diagnostic display. "Backup systems nominal. Streaming resolution optimal." The custom communication relay stations placed yesterday would maintain the live stream connection through 800 feet of solid rock, an engineering feat almost as impressive as the physical one Alex planned. Comments scrolled rapidly across. A secondary monitor. "Phantom back at it again. Devil's Throat looks terrifying. Dude's actually going to attempt the Needle's Eye solo? Insane." Among them, messages from professional cavers appeared with increasing frequency. As press of International Caving Society strongly advise against solo attempt. Recent geological survey shows instability in lower chambers. Devil's Throat requires minimum 3-person safety protocol. Alex glanced at the warnings, dismissing them with practiced nonchalance. "Thanks for the concern," he said directly to the camera. "But I've studied this system for 18 months. The Phantom doesn't attempt what he can't conquer." The specialized caving suit hugged his frame like a second skin, designed to minimize profile while maximizing mobility. $300,000 in custom equipment surrounded him, from the military-grade communication gear to the proprietary breathing apparatus that would extend his air supply in tight spaces. "Final equipment check," he announced, moving through the list with military precision. "Primary light system, check. Secondary illumination, check. Emergency beacon, check. Oxygen monitoring, check. Communication relay, check. Streaming quality, check." Mia nodded confirmation on each point, her expression betraying concern she'd never voice on stream. She'd worked with Alex for 6 years, witnessed his evolution from respected athlete to algorithmic adrenaline addict. The viewers demanded escalation. Alex delivered. The Devil's Throat's dark maw seemed to inhale the morning light. Geological estimates dated the cave system to the Pleistocene epoch, its narrow passages carved by water through limestone over millions of years. What nature had patiently created, Alex intended to conquer in under 6 hours. Stream status? Alex asked, securing his specialized helmet with an integrated camera system. 300,000 concurrent viewers and climbing, Mia confirmed. We're trending #1 globally. Alex nodded, satisfaction crossing his features momentarily. The algorithm rewarded risk. Higher danger meant higher engagement. Higher engagement meant higher revenue. Simple mathematics in the attention economy. Time to make history, he announced, stretching briefly before approaching the cave entrance. The Phantom enters the Devil's Throat solo, live and unfiltered. What waits below, we discover together. The livestream chat erupted as he disappeared into darkness, the specialized helmet. Camera activating automatically as ambient light diminished. Mia watched his vital signs appear on her monitor. His heart rate elevated, but within performance parameters, oxygen levels optimal, body temperature nominal. What the readings couldn't measure was the geological instability that 3 separate experts had warned about in messages Alex had chosen to ignore. The Devil's Throat had claimed 4 lives in the past decade. Whether it would claim another remains to be seen. The extreme sports champion moved deeper into the earth, viewers climbing past 500,000 as social media amplified the stream. The world watched, gripped by someone else's danger, blind to the reality that awaited 800 feet below in an unmapped section, recently altered by seismic activity. No one had bothered to mention to the Phantom. Dust trails rise behind the modified Jeep Wrangler as it navigates the final stretch of unpaved mountain road, each jolt testing the specialized equipment secured in the rear cargo area. Alex checks his satellite phone's GPS coordinates one final time while his 3-person technical crew maintains radio silence, the gravity of the morning's objective weighing on even the most experienced among them. The Devil's Throat cave system looms less than a kilometer ahead, its inconspicuous entrance belying the labyrinthine death trap that has claimed 7 lives in the past decade alone. Final equipment check, Alex announces to his livestream audience, now approaching 326,000 viewers across multiple platforms. His modified GoPro Ultra captures every detail as he methodically inspects the UIS-certified gear laid out on the specialized tarp. Primary light system with triple redundancy, secondary helmet-mounted xenon with custom battery pack, emergency chemical illumination rods rated for 72-hour duration. The technical crew moves with precision around Alex, testing the proprietary signal relay system designed specifically for this attempt. Each small transmitter node must be placed at precise intervals to maintain the unprecedented underground connection. Without them, the world goes dark to what happens below. The COMSI's relay nodes are showing green across all diagnostics, Mia confirms while monitoring the signal strength indicators. But I'm still registering concerns about the limestone interference patterns we mapped yesterday. Section C7 shows potential dead zones. Alex dismisses her concern with practiced confidence. That's why we're running triple redundancy on the signal path. If primary fails, secondary kicks in. If both fail, we've got the emergency frequency. His livestream chat explodes with messages, expert cavers warning about the specific dangers of the Needle's Eye passage. Alex reads a few comments aloud, his tone remaining confident despite the warnings. Jason Cavipro says the recent seismic activity has likely altered the lower passages. Appreciate the concern, Jason, but our ground-penetrating radar survey from last week shows minimal structural changes. Alex taps his custom-fitted neoprene caving suit, specially designed to reduce his profile by 1.7 inches compared to standard equipment. And yes, Mexico Cavris, I've seen your warning about the 8.7-inch constriction at marker 43. That's why I've got this. The viewership counter ticks upward, 343,000 and climbing as Alex begins donning his equipment. The custom helmet with integrated multispectrum lighting system fits snugly against his head. The specialized suit, Barely thicker than wetsuit material but rated for abrasion resistance comparable to military-grade gear, hugs his athletic frame. His support team attached the vital sign monitoring system, heart rate, blood oxygen, temperature, and respiratory rate will display in real time on viewers' screens. Oxygen reserves checking optimal, his medical supervisor confirms. Testing the emergency breathing apparatus Alex will carry, but hopes not to use. CO2 scrubbers functional. Emergency locator beacon signaling properly. The comment section fills with increasingly urgent warnings. Professional cavers outline specific dangers of solo descents. Rescue coordinators from 3 countries post about response time limitations. Former record holders plead for additional safety measures. Listen up, Alex addresses the camera directly. Viewer count now at 378,000. I respect everyone's concerns. I've studied this system for 7 years. Trained specifically for this attempt for 18 months. Every calculation, every measurement, every contingency has been accounted for. He secures his specialized carabiners rated for 22 kilonewtons, nearly 3 times what any maneuver would require. This is why they call me the Phantom. I go where others can't. I survive what others won't attempt. The final relay node is calibrated as Alex steps toward the cave entrance, the black void a stark contrast against the morning sunlight. He performs one final equipment check, methodically testing each backup system while narrating the process. For his rapidly growing audience. Comms check, he calls to Mia. 5 by 5, she responds, eyeing her monitoring equipment with professional concern. Signal strength optimal. Backup channels clear. Emergency frequency standing by. Alex turns to face the camera one last time before descent, his expression calm but eyes betraying the adrenaline surge already building. Let the world record attempt begin. Devil's Throat, I'm coming for your secrets. The viewer count hits 403,000 as he disappears into the darkness, the cave entrance swallowing him like a stone dropped into still water. Behind him, Mia watches her signal strength indicators with growing concern, her experience telling her what Alex refuses to acknowledge. Something about this descent doesn't follow the expected patterns. The livestream continues uninterrupted. For now, darkness envelops Alex Phantom Reyes as he slips through the jagged mouth of Devil's Throat, his headlamp cutting a narrow beam through the ancient limestone. The livestream counter ticks past 450,000 viewers, a silent digital army following his descent into the Earth's depths. Welcome to the underworld, everyone, he whispers, his voice echoing slightly in the confined space. The helmet-mounted camera shows his hands moving with practiced precision across the rock face, finding invisible holds that only years of experience can locate. First chamber looks exactly as mapped, Alex narrates, his breathing controlled and steady. Temperature dropping already, hitting about 55 degrees. The monitoring equipment strapped to his ultra-thin caving suit blinks with vital sign. Data, numbers scrolling across one corner of the livestream. Heart rate 72, oxygen saturation 98%. All optimal for an athlete of his caliber. The support team at base camp maintains radio silence, allowing Alex's commentary to dominate the feed. They know the showmanship aspect is as important to him as the technical achievement. The first vertical drop appears suddenly, a 15-foot chimney barely wide enough for his shoulders. This is where we start getting intimate with the cave. Alex jokes, securing a temporary anchor and checking it with 3 sharp tugs. Remember, folks, in caving there's no such thing as overkill when it comes to safety checks. The irony of his statement doesn't register as he smoothly rappels down the narrow shaft, his movements fluid and economical. Alex, the flow markers on the eastern wall suggest recent water activity, comments Dr. Eliza Werner, a renowned speleologist watching the stream. Her message joins thousands flooding the chat, but gets highlighted by a moderator. That formation shouldn't be active this season. Alex spots the comment during a rest moment. Good eye, Dr. Werner. There's definitely been more water through here than expected. He pans his camera across glistening limestone formations, mineral deposits catching the light like frozen stars. Makes for some spectacular viewing though, doesn't it? The viewer count jumps another 20,000 as social media shares multiply. 300 feet into the earth now. The passage narrows further, forcing Alex to remove his small equipment pack and push it ahead of him. We're approaching what cavers call a belly crawl section, he explains, voice slightly strained as he flattens himself against the cool stone. About 30 feet of quality time with Mother Earth. The camera perspective shifts disorienting. As he slides forward on his stomach, the ceiling just inches from his back. Halfway through the crawl space, a subtle vibration runs through the stone beneath him. Alex pauses momentarily, head tilted in assessment. Just a little earth music, he dismisses after a moment, continuing forward. The monitoring equipment shows a momentary spike in his heart rate before settling back to normal levels. Mr. Reyes. That was a microseismic event, types geological engineer Marcus Trent, his comment flagged by moderators. Those have been increasing in frequency in this region over the past month. The comment scrolls past unnoticed as Alex emerges from the crawl space, rising to his hands and knees in a slightly larger chamber. That's the appetizer finished, he announces, checking his equipment. Now we're getting to the main course. His headlamp illuminates what cavers call a letterbox, a horizontal slot barely 14 inches high, but extending forward into darkness. Beyond this point is the path to the needle's eye, Alex explains, excitement evident in his voice. No. One has streamed from beyond this point before. He doesn't mention that few have attempted this route solo, and none with his minimal equipment loadout optimized for the stream rather than safety redundancies. As Alex slides into the letterbox, the camera catches something he doesn't, a fresh fracture line in the ceiling above, water seeping through like tears from the earth itself. The viewer count hits 500,000 as he disappears into the slot, a digital army bearing witness to every movement, every decision, every missed warning sign. The path to the needle's eye awaits, indifferent to human ambition or the invisible audience. Watching from the safety of their screens, darkness swallowed the beam of Alex's primary headlamp as he inched forward through the narrowing passage. The limestone walls, slick with mineral deposits, reflected the light in ghostly patterns across his ultra-thin caving suit. 3 hours into the descent, and the Devil's Throat was already proving why it had claimed 3 lives in the past decade. Navigation. Check, Alex announced to his livestream audience, now exceeding 600,000 viewers. His voice echoed in the confined space as he consulted the 3D mapping device strapped to his left forearm. Currently at 270 meters below the entrance, preparing to access the midsection traverse before approaching the needle's eye. The device's screen illuminated his face in blue light, revealing the first beads of sweat despite the cave's 52-degree temperature. Something wasn't right. Where the digital map showed a clear horizontal passage, his headlamp revealed a chaotic jumble of fallen rock, blocking the route completely. Situation update, he said, professional calm masking the surge of adrenaline. We've got an unexpected rockfall not indicated on the survey maps. He adjusted his helmet camera to give viewers a better perspective of the obstacle. This is what makes exploration real, folks. Maps are just educated guesses down here. The livestream chat exploded with reactions. Expert cavers immediately recognized the severity of the situation. User Cavarescue22 typed, "That's a fresh collapse. Exit immediately. Indicates serious structural instability." Alex scanned the rockfall with his secondary light system, assessing options with practiced precision. The main route was completely sealed with limestone debris, some chunks larger than a refrigerator. Air quality sensors on his suit registered normal oxygen levels, but the dust particulate count had spiked dramatically. I'm seeing a potential bypass route approximately 2 meters to the east, Alex reported, shifting his body in the confined space to examine a dark void between the collapsed ceiling and wall. Going to conduct a structural assessment before proceeding. He extracted specialized equipment from his minimalist pack, a carbon fiber probe and ultrasonic density scanner. Professional cavers recognized the top-tier gear, but also knew its limitations. 300 meters above, in a communications relay station, Mia watched the readings with growing concern. Alex, I'm seeing significant fracturing in the overhead section. Mia's voice crackled through his comms. Seismic data from yesterday showed minor activity in the region. The viewer count hit 520,000 as word spread across social media. Celebrity followers amplified the stream, unaware of the genuine danger developing. Acknowledged, Alex responded, already calculating a new route. I'm observing a natural flue system to the east, narrow, but navigable with equipment adjustments. The decision point had arrived. Standard caving protocol dictated retreat when facing an unmapped obstacle of this magnitude. Alex knew this. The professional cavers in his audience knew this. But 500,000 viewers were watching this self-proclaimed phantom live up to his reputation. Proceeding with bypass assessment, he announced, detaching non-essential gear to reduce his profile. The specialized caving suit, barely thicker than a wetsuit, allowed him to squeeze through spaces that would trap a normally equipped person. Mia's voice came through again, professional but edged with tension. Alex, recommend abort. Repeat, recommend mission abort. Structural integrity readings are below safety threshold. The livestream chat divided instantly, safety advocates versus thrill seekers urging him forward. Sponsorship logos flashed intermittently at the bottom of the stream as viewer numbers continued climbing. Calculated risk is what we do, Alex responded, his trademark phrase recognizable to his followers. He maneuvered toward the narrow bypass, illuminating it with his high-powered secondary light. I'm seeing a viable pathway that reconnects with the main route approximately 15 meters ahead. The gap was brutally tight, no more than 40 centimeters at its widest point. Alex removed his equipment belt, secured it to a drag tether, and prepared for the squeeze. Heart rate monitor data displayed in the corner of the live stream showed an elevated but controlled 95 BPM. Beginning bypass maneuver, he announced, voice steady as he inserted himself into the crevice. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why we train with restricted movement protocols. The limestone pressed against his specialized suit from all sides as he inched forward using micro movements of his shoulders and hips. Technique refined through hundreds of tight squeezes in caves worldwide. What viewers couldn't see was the fresh crack developing above the bypass, tiny fragments of limestone dust raining down as the disturbed section responded to his movement. Mia saw it on the sensor feed. Alex, vibration sensors showing progressive failure in section C7. Abort immediately. Too late. Alex had committed to the squeeze, body now fully engaged in the narrow gap. The rock shifted microscopically, tightening its grip around his torso. Situation manageable, he responded, professional calm betrayed only by his elevated heart rate, now visible to all viewers, 115 BPM and climbing, continuing forward progress. The next 15 minutes unfolded in excruciating slow motion as Alex navigated the bypass with millimeter precision. The livestream hit 700,000 concurrent viewers, making it the most watched caving event in history. When he finally emerged on the other side, reconnecting with the mapped passage, a visible exhale of relief escaped his lips. The heart rate monitor gradually descended from its peak of 142 BPM. Bypass complete, he announced, professional demeanor returning as he reattached his equipment. That's why they call me the Phantom, folks. What he didn't acknowledge was how the successful navigation of the unexpected obstacle had just reinforced his most dangerous trait: the absolute conviction that his skills could overcome any challenge the cave might present. The Devil's Throat had merely offered its first test. The true horror still waited below. In the passage aptly named the Needle's Eye, silence fell over Alex Phantom Reyes as he approached the infamous guillotine section, his headlamp casting long shadows across the limestone formations that marked nature's point of no return. 3 hours into his solo descent of the Devil's Throat, his breathing remained controlled despite the rising tension evident in his movements. The livestream counter showed 1.7 million viewers now, all watching as he faced the most critical decision of the expedition. "We're approaching the guillotine, people." Alex's voice carried through the cave with professional calm, but those who had followed his previous expeditions could detect the subtle edge. "Once we drop through this vertical shaft, there's no climbing back up. It's a one-way ticket to the Needle's Eye and beyond." His helmet camera panned slowly across the narrow vertical shaft, descending into darkness, giving viewers a perfect perspective of the 23-foot drop through jagged rock that resembled a medieval execution device. The limestone had been shaped by centuries of water erosion into blade-like protrusions that would shred equipment or flesh with any miscalculation. "Decision time," Alex announced, checking his oxygen monitoring system displayed in the corner of the livestream. Levels holding at 97%, heart rate 72 BPM. Equipment status green across all systems. The practiced assessment betrayed his military background, methodology that had kept him alive through 12 world records in extreme environments. The comment feed scrolled frantically as viewers debated his decision. Professional cavers warned about deteriorating conditions deeper in the system, citing recent geological surveys that hadn't been published when Alex planned the expedition. He glanced at the feed, dismissing their concerns with a practiced smile. "I see the warnings, folks, but we've done the calculations. The devil won't take me today." The confidence in his voice had convinced sponsors to fund his previous record attempts, and corporate logos still dotted his specialized caving suit, now caked with limestone dust and clay. Alex secured his primary line, double-checked his emergency systems, and began configuring his descent gear. Each movement demonstrated years of training, his hands never hesitating despite the stakes. This was the point where lesser explorers turned back, where logical risk assessment demanded retreat. "Risk calculation complete," he narrated for the viewers. "Environmental factors at acceptable levels. Primary descent path clear. Secondary extraction route mapped through the western chamber if necessary." His voice maintained professional detachment while explaining the decision process. "The guillotine passage narrows to approximately 14 inches at its tightest point, which gives us a 3-inch clearance margin with current equipment configuration." The first warning came as he began his descent, a flicker in his secondary light system that most viewers missed but caused a momentary pause in his movements. Alex's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly as he ran a diagnostic check through his verbal command system. Secondary illumination showing power fluctuation, switching to backup battery. The practiced response masked the significance equipment. Failures rarely came singly in extreme environments. Continuing descent. The narrow shaft enveloped him as he rappelled downward, rock walls pressing closer with each foot of progress. His breathing remained controlled, but the monitoring system revealed his heart rate climbing to 85 BPM, then 92. The live feed occasionally stuttered as the communication relay struggled to maintain connection through the dense rock. "Passing the midpoint restriction," Alex reported, voice still steady as his body contorted to navigate past a particularly sharp protrusion. "Visibility good, structural integrity appears stable." Behind his professional assessment, experienced viewers could detect the first note of concern. This wasn't matching his expected conditions. 7 minutes into the descent, the communication relay showed its first significant failure, the screen going black for 3 seconds before reconnecting. A collective gasp rippled through comment sections across platforms worldwide. Relay stabilized, Alex confirmed upon reconnection, but the slight tension in his voice told a different story. "We're committed now, folks. Next stop, the Needle's Eye." As he touched down at the bottom of the guillotine, the camera panned to show the impossibly narrow horizontal passage ahead. The Devil's Throat had swallowed him completely now, and 2.1 million viewers watched as reality began to assert itself against human confidence. The point of no return had been crossed, both physically and psychologically. The cave waited, patient and indifferent to human ambition, as it had been for millions of years before. The limestone walls closed in like a vice as Alex Phantom Reyes approached the section that had ended 3 previous expeditions. The notorious Needle's Eye passage loomed ahead, its jagged opening barely visible in his primary headlamp's beam. The livestream counter ticked past 2.2 million viewers, a number that would have thrilled him hours ago, but now registered only as another pressure point in his increasingly complicated situation. "This is it, everyone," Alex announced, his voice maintaining the confident edge that had built his following across 17 extreme sports records. The infamous Needle's Eye, officially measured at 8.7 inches at its narrowest point. He angled his helmet camera to capture the imposing geological formation. For reference, the average refrigerator door is about 24 inches wide. The passage looked impossibly small, a vertical slit in the ancient rock that seemed to defy human passage. Alex's custom-designed LED array illuminated the calcite formations that made the tight squeeze even more treacherous. Thousands of years of water dripping through limestone had created knife-edge protrusions that could slice through equipment or skin with the slightest wrong move. "Starting equipment reduction protocol," he narrated, methodically removing his secondary gear pack and attaching it to a lightweight drag line. Years of free diving had taught him to streamline his profile, but this would require more extreme measures. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, unclipping his secondary air tank and securing it to the same line. "I'll pull these through after I navigate the Narrows." The comment feed scrolling at the edge of his helmet display flashed with warnings from expert viewers, their messages highlighted by his eye monitoring system _Dave. "That passage has narrowed since the last survey. Abort, geospelunker. Recent seismic activity reported in the region. Structural integrity compromised. Expedition Master, your chest measurement exceeds documented passage width. Do not attempt." Alex acknowledged the warnings with a practiced chuckle, the same sound his followers had heard before he jumped from Malaysia's Menara Tower or freed of the blue holes of the Bahamas. "Appreciate the concern, but I've trained for this specific challenge for 7 months." He tapped his custom-fitted compression suit. "This reduces my profile by nearly 15% under pressure." The helmet camera captured his final preparations as he applied a specialized, silicone-based lubricant to his compression suit. "This is the same material used by professional cave divers in the Yucatan cenotes," he explained, voice steady despite the growing unease in his gut. "Reduces friction and allows for smoother passage through restricted spaces." Alex positioned himself at the entrance to the Needle's Eye, taking 3 deep, measured breaths, a technique he'd perfected during high-altitude climbs. His vitals overlay showed his heart rate at 72 BPM, remarkably controlled given the circumstances. The biomonitoring feed was one of the stream's most popular features, allowing viewers to track his physiological responses to extreme stress. "Initiating passage now," he announced, extending his arms forward in the streamlined position he'd practiced hundreds of times in the custom-built simulator back in Colorado. "Remember, this is a one-way journey. The passage angles downward at 15 degrees, making retreat impossible once committed. The initial entry seemed promising, his shoulders clearing the opening with just millimeters to spare. The specialized camera system provided viewers with both the helmet perspective and a secondary follow cam that he'd placed on a micro-rail system installed during his approach. This gave the audience a third-person view of his body slowly disappearing into the seemingly impossible opening. "Compression suit performing as expected," Alex reported, his voice now showing the first signs of strain as the passage began to compress his ribcage, passing the first marker now. The needle's eye lived up to its reputation immediately. Just 3 feet in, the passage narrowed dramatically, forcing Alex to exhale completely to reduce his chest profile. The millions watching heard his breathing become shallow and controlled, another free diving technique adapted for this extreme environment. "Bit tighter than the models predicted," he admitted, the first genuine acknowledgement of concern slipping into his carefully maintained narrative. The biofeed showed his heart rate jumping to 95 BPM, making adjustments to approach angle. 8 feet into the passage, the reality of his situation began to assert itself with uncompromising clarity. The rock pressed against him from all sides, limiting his chest expansion and restricting his movement to millimeters at a time. What the geological surveys hadn't revealed was a slight twist in the passage, a corkscrew effect that hadn't been visible from either end. "Encountering unexpected configuration," Alex reported. "Professionalism still dominant, but strain now evident. Passage includes a rotational element approximately 30 degrees counterclockwise." The comment feed exploded with expert cavers highlighting the danger, their warnings now echoed by members of his own support team, monitoring the stream remotely. Support team _Jessica. "Alex, sensors show passage dimensions insufficient for full traverse. Consider emergency protocols. Cavarescue _Dave. This is exactly why solo attempts are prohibited. Extraction will be extremely difficult. Geo-spelunker. That twist wasn't on any survey. Stop immediately." For the first time since beginning his extreme sports career, Alex felt genuine fear creep into his consciousness. Not the manageable adrenaline rush he typically harnessed, but something more primal. 12 feet into the passage. With millions watching, his forward progress stopped completely. "Encountering resistance," he reported, voice tightening as he struggled to maintain his professional demeanor. Applying additional lubricant and adjusting position. The biofeed told the real story. Heart rate, 115 BPM, respiration, shallow and rapid. Core temperature, rising from exertion in the confined space, the moment millions would later describe as the turning point came. 14 minutes into the attempt, Alex had managed to progress another 8 inches before his body simply refused to move in either direction. The reality of his situation hit with the force of physical impact. "I appear to be..." He paused, the professional facade cracking for the first time. "I'm experiencing a situation here." The euphemism didn't mask the truth that was obvious to every viewer. Alex Phantom Reyes, holder of 17 extreme sports world records, was stuck in the needle's eye, unable to move forward or backward, with oxygen supplies dwindling and no immediate rescue possible. The livestream counter hit 2.3 million as viewers around the world shared the link, drawn to the unfolding crisis. What had begun as an extreme sports challenge had transformed into something far more primal. A human struggle for survival broadcast in real time, to a global audience that could only watch as reality struck with uncompromising force. The cold limestone pressed against Alex's chest like a vice, each millimeter forward now requiring calculated precision. His breathing came in controlled shallow bursts, a technique he'd mastered during free diving competitions, but never needed. Quite like this. The needle's eye passage had just gone from challenging to potentially deadly. Heart rate climbing to 115 BPM, his monitoring system announced through the helmet speaker. The automated voice eerily calm against the backdrop of his increasingly desperate situation. In the livestream chat, viewers watched the vitals display. With growing concern, Reyes, Phantom's chest circumference is 42 inches according to his sponsor page. That passage narrows to 8.7 at its tightest point. This is not mathematically possible. Geospelunker, the Mexico Caving Society, mapped this section 3 years ago. There's been seismic activity since then. That passage could be even narrower now. Comments scrolled past too quickly for Alex to read, but the communication relay in his helmet picked up the essential warnings. Thanks for the concern, but I've squeezed through tighter spots in Yemen, he managed, voice strained as he inched forward. The specially designed ultra-thin exploration suit offering minimal protection against the jagged rock face scraping. His sides, 300 feet above, Marcos adjusted the signal relay, fighting to maintain the connection as it weakened with each additional foot of solid rock between them and Alex. Signal degradation at 37%, he reported. We might lose video quality soon. Alex ignored the warning, focusing instead on the next movement. Cave exploration was like a physical chess game. Each move had to be planned 3 steps ahead. He'd navigated the throat ripper in Vietnam, the coffin slide in Romania. This was just another obstacle to overcome, another achievement to add to his legend. The livestream counter ticked past 2.7 million concurrent viewers. His right shoulder caught against an unexpected outcropping. A normal caver would have mapped this section first, used measuring tools, sent in equipment to test the dimensions. Alex Phantom Reyes wasn't normal. 3 energy drink sponsors and a documentary deal had been built on that very premise. Slight detour here, he narrated, professional calm still dominating his voice despite the growing pressure in his chest. Going to have to exhale completely to make this next section. Expert viewers recognized the technique, fully emptying the lungs to reduce chest cavity size by up to 2 inches. It was a standard procedure, but not at this depth, not in this position, not for someone already pushing human physiological limits. Cave Rescue 2-2. He needs to back out now. That technique buys seconds, not minutes. Once he's through, his expanded lungs might prevent return. Alex felt the first genuine spike of fear as he emptied his lungs completely and pushed forward. The rock didn't yield. His shoulders, specially padded with the thinnest possible material, wedged tight against the unforgiving stone. For the first time in the livestream, the characteristic phantom smile disappeared. Bit tighter than the recon team reported, he admitted, voice now showing strain. The biosensors registered his pulse jumping to 130 BPM. On the surface, Marcos exchanged worried glances with the small support team. Alex, your oxygen saturation is dropping to 92%. You need to control your breathing. The limestone passage seemed to contract around him, a geological reality colliding with human determination. Alex tried to push through with another micro-movement. Nothing. He tried to pull back to reassess. Nothing. The first flash of genuine panic registered on his face, captured in 4K resolution for the now 2.8 million viewers. I appear to be temporarily secured in position, he said, professional terminology attempting to mask the severity of the situation. Going to try a different approach. The specialized camera on his helmet captured the claustrophobic nightmare in perfect clarity. Walls of ancient rock pressed against him from all sides, the narrow beam of his primary light illuminating just inches ahead to where the passage appeared to narrow even further. What wasn't visible to viewers was the rising carbon dioxide level in his immediate breathing space, a deadly threat every experienced caver would recognize. Alex, listen carefully, Mia's voice came through, now all business. The mapping data we're receiving suggests you've encountered an unmapped contraction. You need to back out and find another route. For the first time since starting his extreme sports career, Alex "Phantom" Reyes confronted a challenge that might be genuinely insurmountable. Not because of skill, not because of nerve, but because of simple physics. Bone and flesh cannot compress beyond certain limits. The passage, indifferent to his fame and determination, remained 8.7 inches at its narrowest. He hesitated, the words stuck in his throat more firmly than he was in the rock. "I'm unable to move in either direction." The livestream chat exploded. "Emergency. Someone contact Mexican search and rescue immediately. This is now a critical situation. Cava Rescue 22. Estimated time to reach his position with rescue equipment, 4 to 6 hours minimum. Geologic proof that formation is Santa Maria limestone. Attempts to widen by force could trigger collapse. Reality crashed down harder than any of the boulders, shifting ominously above him." The extreme sports champion who had conquered mountains, oceans, and urban heights had finally met his match in the indifferent precision of geology. His chest, compressed to its physiological limit, struggled to draw sufficient oxygen. "Status update," he managed, training and professionalism still driving him despite the circumstances. "I am currently immobilized in the Needle's Eye passage. Vitals stable but movement restricted in both directions." The words came out measured, but the fear in his eyes told the real story. The communication relay flickered, signal degrading to 42%. "Alex, we're contacting specialized cave rescue," Marcos responded. "Already sending emergency coordinates to the Mexican authorities. Conserve your oxygen, minimize movement." In the unforgiving embrace of the Needle's Eye, Alex "Phantom" Reyes faced the ultimate reality check. Not all challenges can be overcome by skill, determination, or specialized equipment. Some limits are simply built into the physical world. 8.7 immovable inches of ancient stone, indifferent to human ambition. His heart rate monitor beeped a warning as it passed 140 BPM. "Viewers," he said, voice finally betraying the full gravity of the situation. "We may have a situation developing here." The livestream counter hit 3 million. Absolute stillness was all Alex "Phantom" Reyes could manage in the unforgiving grip of the Needle's Eye. His breathing shallow and measured as reality finally overcame confidence. The limestone passage, merely 8.7 inches at its narrowest point, held him in a vice that allowed neither forward progress nor retreat. His specialized caving suit, designed to reduce friction and profile, now felt like a second skin compressing his chest against unyielding stone. "Status update," Alex whispered, professional calm barely masking rising panic. "I'm completely immobilized at coordinate marker N12 on the survey map. Chest expansion restricted to approximately 40% capacity." Years of extreme sports training had taught him to quantify emergencies, to transform fear into data. Livestream continued its relentless broadcast. Viewer count now exceeding 3.2 million as word spread across social media platforms. The helmet-mounted camera showed only darkness and rock, but the audio captured each controlled breath, each micro-movement as Alex assessed his situation with deteriorating composure. "Come check base," he called, voice echoing through the narrow passage. "Relay status and emergency response options." Static answered, the communication relay system struggling to maintain connection through hundreds of feet of solid rock. His support team's voice finally broke through, fragmented but recognizable. "Reading you at 60% oxygen monitor, showing rescue team, assemble, maintain controlled breathing." The technical readout on Alex's heads-up display flashed warning indicators. Oxygen saturation 92% and falling. Heart rate elevated to 115 BPM. Battery reserves at 78%. Each metric carefully tracked, each telling the story of a situation rapidly deteriorating beyond his control. "Implementing Crisis Protocol Alpha," Alex announced, both to viewers and himself. The protocol, developed during his free-diving career, focused on oxygen conservation and panic management. His breathing slowed deliberately, each inhale measured, each exhale controlled. The technique had saved him in underwater caves. Here, trapped in solid rock, its effectiveness remained uncertain. Comments flooded the livestream, experts and amateurs alike offering suggestions. Emergency services from 3 counties were mobilizing, but their arrival time remained unknown. The nearest specialized cave rescue team was 4 hours away by helicopter. "Alex, this is Dr. Mendez, pulmonary specialist." A new voice broke through the CUM system. "Your CO levels are rising in that confined space. You need to minimize movement and speaking to conserve oxygen." Alex's eyes closed momentarily, acknowledging the advice with a slight nod that sent pain across his compressed shoulders. The rock pressed against his chest cavity, each breath becoming a conscious battle against geology. "Understood," he managed. "Viewers, I'm going to minimize. Commentary to conserve air." Professional to the end, still thinking of his audience even as survival became questionable, the support team established a secondary livestream from the surface, documenting the rapidly assembling rescue operation. Technical specialists gathered around topographical maps, arguing extraction strategies and equipment options. The standard rescue protocols for the Devil's Throat cave system hadn't accounted for someone attempting the Needle's Eye solo. "Alex, Rescue Coordinator Wallace here." A gruff voice broke through the static. "We're analyzing the structural integrity of your position. Any attempt to widen the passage risks destabilization. We need you to remain absolutely still." Time, stretched in the darkness, marked only by the steady beep of monitoring equipment and Alex's increasingly labored breathing. The live stream continued uninterrupted, viewer count now approaching 4 million, witnessing a man's struggle for survival in real time. Oxygen saturation 88%, Alex reported mechanically, training still dictating documentation even as fear gnawed at his composure. Experiencing peripheral numbness in extremities. Vision remains clear. The helmet camera showed nothing but darkness and stone, but captured the subtle tremor in his voice, the first crack in the confident persona his followers had come to expect. For 8 years, the Phantom had conquered every challenge, defied every limit. Now, immobile in the Earth's grip, he faced mortality not in a blaze of glory, but in slow, claustrophobic compression. "Alex, we're deploying a microphone probe through the passage," the rescue coordinator updated. "We need accurate acoustic mapping of the structure surrounding you. You'll hear a high-pitched series of tones. Remain still during the procedure." The sophisticated equipment, rushed to the scene by geological survey specialists, represented cutting-edge cave rescue technology. The acoustic mapping would create a 3-dimensional model of the passage, revealing potential extraction routes, invisible to the human eye. "Confirmed," Alex responded, professional even in crisis. Ready for acoustic mapping. The high-pitched tones echoed through the passage, bouncing through the limestone channels and returning data to computers on the surface. Alex remained motionless, understanding that even the slightest movement could compromise the readings. "Phantom," a viewer comment appeared on his heads-up display. The emergency team routing select messages through to maintain his morale. "We're with you, all of us. Stay strong." The comment came from @CliffJumper 447, a longtime follower who had watched every one of Alex's previous adventures. Now, like millions of others, they watched the champion facing not a challenge of his choosing, but the uncompromising reality of nature's limits. "Acoustic mapping complete," the rescue team announced. "Analysis underway." "Alex, we're seeing some concerning structural issues approximately 3 meters above your position. Maintain absolute stillness." The cold reality of the situation crystallized in Alex's mind as he processed the information. The passage that had seemed merely a tight squeeze on outdated survey maps had become a potential tomb. His oxygen saturation continued its gradual decline, now at 86%. I understand, he responded, eyes fixed on the environmental readouts, awaiting extraction plan. Professional terminology masked the fundamental human fear that no extraction plan might be possible. The livestream continued its broadcast, unblinking and merciless, as viewers around the world witnessed the transformation of an extreme sports spectacle into a desperate fight for survival. As darkness surrounded him, Alex "Phantom" Reyes faced the ultimate reality. Nature allows. No ambassadors, only visitors, and sometimes not even survivors. Oxygen saturation, 83% and falling. The numbers flickered on the edge of Alex's helmet display, a digital countdown to disaster that every rescue professional watching the stream understood all too well. 6 hours since initial entrapment. 4 hours since the first rescue team had mobilized. 90 minutes since his last successful communication relay. Base camp to Phantom, do you copy? Captain Rivera's voice crackled through the damaged relay system, each word fighting through layers of limestone and technical failure. Conserve your oxygen. Short responses only. In the Needle's Eye passage, 278 feet below the surface, Alex "Phantom" Reyes struggled to control his breathing. The passage's 8-inch width pressed against his chest from all sides, restricting normal respiratory function. Each intake barely filled a third of his lung capacity. Copy, Alex managed, his voice no longer carrying the confident edge that had defined the first 7 hours of his livestream. Status on approach? Through fractured data packets, the livestream continued broadcasting to what had become the largest simultaneous viewing audience in extreme sports history. 3.2 million people watched the feed, now interspersed with technical breakdowns from the rescue coordinator. Dr. Sarah Chun's voice broke through on the medical channel. Alex, I need you to focus on your breathing pattern. 4 counts in, hold. For 7, 8 counts out. Your CO2 levels are climbing toward critical. On the surface, organized chaos erupted across 3 command centers. The primary rescue team assembled specialized equipment designed for ultra-confined space extraction, equipment that had never been field-tested in passages this narrow. Technical climbers and cave rescue specialists from 4 countries coordinated. Through emergency protocols established after the Thailand cave disaster years earlier. We're looking at a modified pneumatic sleeve extraction. Technical Sergeant Wilson explained to the secondary stream now running parallel to Alex's increasingly unstable feed. The concept uses microscopic air pockets to create milliseconds of space between the subject and the passage walls. The rescue team's helmet cameras showed the frantic preparation, testing equipment tolerances against replicated measurements of the Needle's Eye. Every calculation yielded the same result. The standard human thoracic expansion during normal breathing exceeded the passage width by 1.3 inches. Phantom to base. Alex's voice returned, weaker but fighting to maintain clarity. Relay status on viewer count. Even now, trapped between a movable stone with oxygen depletion clouding his judgment, the champion's mind returned to his audience. Captain Rivera exchanged glances with the psychological support specialist before responding. 4.4 million and holding. They're with you, but focus on conservation protocols. In the medical monitoring station, specialists watched Alex's biometric data with growing concern. Heart rate, 115 BPM. Respiratory rate, 22 per minute. Core temperature, 94.7 degrees Fahrenheit, and dropping from extended contact with the limestone. Initiating thermal reflection protocol, Dr. Chun instructed through the relay. Activate your emergency thermal layer. Alex's trembling fingers fumbled with the control unit on his specialized suit. The ultra-thin thermal layer embedded within the fabric activated, generating minimal heat while reflecting his body temperature. Standard procedure for extended cave entrapment, but merely buying time rather than solving the fundamental problem. Livestream chat had transformed from its earlier excitement into something unexpected. Viewers organized into functional groups, technical advisors compiling suggestions, medical professionals offering expertise, psychological support teams maintaining constant encouragement. The digital community had become an extension of the rescue operation. "Phantom to base," Alex's voice cracked, revealing the first trace of the terror he'd been suppressing. "I can't feel my left arm anymore." Silence fell across all command channels. The compression was affecting circulation, creating the first signs of potential tissue damage. The rescue timeline, already compressed beyond standard safety protocols, now faced another reduction. "Understood," Captain Rivera responded, his tone masking the heightened concern this development triggered among the medical team. "Primary extraction team is 20 minutes from your position with specialized equipment. Secondary team has reached the guillotine section with support gear." On the tertiary stream, now dedicated to technical analysis, cave rescue veterans explained the unprecedented nature of the operation. "We're looking at the most technically challenging confined space extraction ever attempted," Dr. Hernandez, leading authority on cave rescue operations, explained to viewers. "The passage dimensions combined with the extended entrapment time create compounding complications." In the needle's eye, Alex focused on the techniques that had kept him alive through countless extreme situations. Compartmentalization, micro-goals, breath control. The psychological training that had once seemed like an unnecessary precaution now became his lifeline. "Stream still live?" he asked, voice barely audible as he conserved precious oxygen. "Affirmative," came the response. "Would you like us to terminate the broadcast?" Alex's laugh emerged as little more than an exhale. "No chance. We finish what? We start." The primary extraction team reached the final approach to the needle's eye, their specialized equipment moving through the tight passages with agonizing slowness. Every piece had been designed for this specific rescue: custom pneumatic wedges, micron-precise measuring tools, pharmaceutical-grade muscle relaxants that could provide crucial millimeters of space. "Alex, this is Dr. Lowery from the psychological support team," a new voice entered the relay. "I need you to prepare for some uncomfortable sensations when the extraction begins. Your body will fight the process." "Understood," Alex whispered, each word measured against its oxygen cost. "Not my first extraction." "But it is the first extraction of this kind," Dr. Lowery corrected gently. "The pneumatic process will feel like your chest is being compressed further before relief comes. Your mind will trigger panic responses. We need you to override them." In the command center, the technical team made final adjustments to the extraction equipment. The pneumatic sleeve, designed specifically for this emergency over the past 4 hours, represented the convergence of multiple specialized fields: aerospace material science, medical compression technology, and tactical extraction protocols. "We've got one shot at this," Technical Sergeant Wilson told the rescue team. "The sleeve requires perfect positioning to create the micro-expansion needed for movement." Alex's oxygen saturation dropped to 79%. The medical team exchanged glances that communicated what they wouldn't say aloud. Cognitive impairment would begin soon. "Alex," Dr. Chun's voice carried artificial steadiness, "when the team reaches you, you'll feel a cool sensation as they apply the pneumatic compound. Don't fight it. It takes 20 seconds to create the microscopic barrier between your body and the stone." Through the increasingly unstable video feed, viewers worldwide watched as Alex's voice responded with just 2 words that revealed everything about his situation. "Hurry, please." The extraction team reached the final approach, their lights now visible on Alex's dimming camera feed. Rescue technicians moved with practiced efficiency, each action reflecting thousands of hours of confined space training. The lead technician carried this specialized pneumatic device, its experimental nature representing both their greatest hope and most significant risk. "Captain," Rivera addressed the millions watching worldwide. What you're about to witness is an unprecedented rescue operation. We ask for continued focus on positive outcomes. In the needle's eye, as his consciousness began to waver from oxygen deprivation, Alex Reyes, the extreme sports champion who had conquered every challenge thrown his way, closed his eyes and surrendered to the expertise of others. The rescue he had never believed he would need was now his only hope. The extraction team reached his position. The real fight for survival was about to begin. Beyond the darkness, where Alex Phantom Reyes had spent 17 hours trapped, light finally pierced the narrow passage of the devil's throat. Rescue team leader Maria Cortez's voice crackled through the failing communication relay. We've reached the narrow bend, 30 meters from target. On screens across the world, viewers who had remained transfixed through the night leaned forward as the helmet camera showed the specialized micro-drilling equipment being assembled at the passage's edge. Alex's oxygen monitor beeped steadily, the numbers in red showing dangerously low saturation levels that had been dropping for hours. Positioning micro-expansion brackets now, technical specialist Jimenez reported, his hands steady despite working in the confined space. The innovative solution developed during frantic consultations with geological experts and mining engineers. Over the past 6 hours involved, creating a series of microfractures in the limestone to widen the passage by critical millimeters without triggering a collapse. This section hasn't seen water erosion for centuries. The calcite formation is what's creating the pinch point. Alex's voice, hoarse from dehydration and the recycled air of his emergency breathing apparatus, broke through static. Still, with you. Viewers, battery at 11%. His once confident tone had been replaced by the measured cadence of someone conserving every breath. The livestream counter showed 5 million concurrent viewers, a platform record that executives would later testify about before congressional hearings on extreme sports broadcasting regulations. The rescue team had mapped every millimeter using ground-penetrating radar deployed through the upper passages. Chief Engineer Norton's voice provided commentary for viewers still following the secondary technical stream. We're essentially performing geological surgery. One miscalculation and we risk a secondary collapse that would... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. First expansion bracket secured, Jimenez announced. The specialized equipment, flown in from a mining rescue unit in Colorado, applied precise pressure at calculated points along the narrow passage. Each microhydraulic press expanded millimeter by millimeter, the pressure sensors monitoring the limestone's resistance. 2 millimeters gained. Proceeding with second bracket. Dr. Rivera, the medical specialist who had been monitoring Alex's vital signs remotely, addressed the emergency team. Core temperature dropping to 95.3. We're seeing early signs of hypoxia despite the emergency oxygen. We have approximately 40 minutes before cognitive function becomes severely impaired. 3 hours earlier, viewers had witnessed Alex's most vulnerable moment, when he had recorded final messages to his family while still believing rescue might be impossible. The clip had already spread across social media platforms, prompting heated debates about the ethics of extreme sports broadcasting and the responsibilities of platforms hosting such content. Third bracket engaged. We've gained 7 millimeters total expansion, Jimenez reported. The microfracturing technique was working, creating hairline cracks that relieved pressure without compromising structural integrity. Passage width now approaching 9.4 inches at narrowest point. Alex's breathing had become more labored, the sound amplified by helmet microphones. Can't feel left side anymore, he managed. The medical team had warned about compartment syndrome from the prolonged compression of his torso. Every minute counted. The critical moment arrived as rescue team member Rodriguez, the smallest of the crew, approached the widened passage with the specialized extraction harness. Visual contact established, she reported, her headlamp illuminating Alex's position for the first time. The camera feed showed his face, pale, streaked with mud, eyes blinking against the first direct light he'd seen in nearly 20 hours. Beginning extraction, Maria coordinated. The lightweight carbon fiber frame deployed around Alex's compressed body, designed to distribute pressure evenly while providing the structural support needed to move him through the passage. Micro-pulley system engaged. The extraction process took 43 agonizing minutes. Viewers watched as Alex was moved centimeter by centimeter through the fractured passage, the medical team providing real-time assessment of his condition. When he finally emerged into the larger chamber where the full medical team waited, the collective exhale was almost audible across millions of viewers. Patient secured, beginning immediate medical protocols, Dr. Rivera announced, moving in. With thermal blankets and 4 fluids. The monitoring equipment showed Alex's vital signs stabilizing as oxygen and warmth were administered. The camera continued broadcasting as he was secured to a specialized stretcher designed for the narrow ascending passages. 3 days later, from his hospital bed in Mexico City, Alex addressed his audience one final time. His previously boisterous delivery was replaced by measured reflection. "I misunderstood the difference between calculated risk and genuine recklessness," he admitted, the bruising still visible on his face. "The devil's throat deserved more respect than I showed it." The livestream had transformed from entertainment to a profound meditation on mortality, hubris, and redemption. In the aftermath, 4 separate investigations were launched. The National Caving Association issued emergency guidelines for solo expeditions. Streaming platforms announced new safety protocols for extreme sports content. Alex's equipment sponsors withdrew, then returned with modified contracts focused on safety advocacy. The Mexican government closed the devil's throat to recreational exploration. Perhaps most significantly, the international search and rescue community gained valuable techniques. The microfracturing method developed under pressure would go on to save 17 lives in similar scenarios over the next 2 years. The lightweight extraction frame designed specifically for Alex's rescue became standard equipment for confined space emergency operations worldwide. As the official report would later state, the incident represents both a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing spectacle over safety and a remarkable demonstration of human ingenuity in crisis response. The devil's throat had claimed no victims this time, but the narrow margin between triumph and tragedy had never been more clearly illuminated for millions of witnesses who had held their breath alongside Alex in the darkness.